Right, Rishi Sunak and this flagship Rwanda policy facing a third reading in the Commons later today.
Yes, this comes after 60 Tory MPs revolted against the Prime Minister by backing an amendment to toughen up Number 10's immigration policy.
Meanwhile, two Tory deputy chairmen, that's Lee Anderson and Brendan Clark-Smith, quit to go against the government in last night's vote.
Well, if Rishi Sunak fails later today, could that trigger a no confidence in the Prime Minister? Let's bring in political commentator Peter Spence for the latest in all of this. A bit of a bloody nose for the Prime Minister, but could this also be existential for him?
Well, indeed, talk about the peasants are revolting. In this case, they do potentially risk blowing him right out of the water. It would only take half of the number who voted against him last night to actually completely ditch this particular piece of legislation, which has been described and is endlessly described as a flagship piece of legislation. Most certainly, Rishi Sunak has bet the farm on it, and he does now run the risk of actually finding that he loses the bill. And does this amount to a vote of confidence in his leadership? It most certainly does.
Sit on us.
OK, so worst case scenario, the same number of MPs vote tonight against him. How likely is that? Perhaps last night was a protest vote. This is going to go down in the annals of history for those people when it comes to the election time. But actually, most of them probably realise that if they vote against the Prime Minister tonight, it puts them in a very bad position going into a general election year.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. It does indeed. I mean, this is, remember, a few days ago, there was a very authoritative YouGov poll which suggested that Rishi Sunak was headed for a defeat on the scale of the Tory government when Tony Blair swept into office. And there is a very, very widespread awareness within the Conservative Parliamentary Party that indeed most of them will be looking to pick up their P45s on the back of a general election. And it is within the bounds of possibility that this could trigger the fall of the government. And remember, of course, when it came to the second reading of the bill, that was the first time it came in front of the MPs. When it came to it, they bottled it. However, there's no question the Prime Minister is running out of wiggle room, point one, and point two. There's also no question of the fact that the Conservative rebels are very, very serious in their determination to get this bill through in the shape that they want to see it, rather than the shape in which the One Nation Conservative group of the party wish to see it. In other words, the other half, the moderate wing of the party, if you like. So I think that Rishi Sunak had kind of gambled on the fact that when it came to it, these guys would back off. But in reality, really, it is it's a 50-50 which way it's going to go tonight. I think it's impossible to overstate the difficulty and the risk that he's running right now. And the tragedy from his point of view is that so many other things are potentially coming right. The other headline of the day is the fact that inflation is set to fall, which is, let's face it, the biggest concern of all the voters that we have seen from every survey that's been carried out, which is the cost of living, rather than the number of people who come across the channel in small boats, point one. And point two, the fact that Rishi Sunak himself has it's now emerged severe reservations about the viability of this plan anyway. He could have quietly ditched it and could now be saying, well, look, thanks to my diligence, we've cut small boat arrivals by a third. We're winning anyway. So I'm afraid to say that if Rishi Sunak does find himself in terminal decline over this issue, he has no one but himself to blame.
Peter, thank you. Very nicely summed up. And what a knife edge it is going to be tonight. Thank you very much. Peter Spencer there.